The things we hide in plain sight. Today, I want to talk about a specific aspect of needs and reactivity that has revealed itself to me over the last few sessions that I've done, especially on the weekend, and then in a story that was shared by me with a friend of mine today. Needs and reactivity. Well, first to needs. Often I find that when needs are expressed strongly, when there's a need for anything whatsoever from another person, whether you feeling like you need them to adjust their behavior for some reason, or you feel that somebody isn't meeting your needs, it's so often, if not all the time, a reflection of some need that you have within yourself to start with. And so consider that. Consider that if you're feeling unsupported, is there a way in which you are not supporting yourself? If you're feeling disrespected, do you respect yourself? If you're feeling suppressed, well, where are you suppressing yourself? It's a good question to ask yourself at the very least. It's thought-provoking, and it often opens things up for you. In terms of reactivity, that's a really interesting one because that is literally the thing that you hide in plain sight. And the thing that made me think about it was a few minutes ago, I was lighting the fire and I found right in plain sight a white pom-pom that my cat loves to chase. And she's had it for ages. I don't know why she's so particularly fond of this one pom-pom, but she loves it, and she'll fetch it and she'll bring it back and drop it at my feet. In any event, aside from cats, it was right there all along. And I find that in terms of reactivity, that is like the pom-pom, if you will. And if you look within plain sight at where you're reacting, where are you reacting in your life? Where do you have a strong reaction? And, you know, often these strong reactions will reveal something very deep. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to go, as one person put it today, down the rabbit hole and asked me what exactly that meant. It doesn't mean you have to go down the rabbit hole and get lost in the story, but it might mean that there's something there that's waiting for you to see it, to feel it. And so in the case of the example I'm thinking about that occurred over the weekend, there was a story that came up and there were definite needs being expressed from one person to another that were very strong. And what I notice in relation to the expression of those needs is as long as you believe that anything at all, anything, it doesn't matter what it is, external is going to meet your needs, and it could be in someone else or a situation, then it is also the need that you are denying meeting yourself within yourself. And so if you have a need for security in a relationship, consider the security that you need from you, actually. And I can promise you this, that when you meet these needs within you, it's really interesting what happens. And obviously I've talked about this before. They disperse, but they just don't show up in terms of other people in the same way. It harmonizes that. Now, back to reactivity, because that's something really potent, I think. Today I highlighted a story, something I was telling a friend of mine about, something that I feel quite strongly about. And on the surface of things, it seemed to involve something that happens in relation to the two cats that I have. And my friend, who's super perceptive, said to me that he thought this was actually a sort of displacement, and that it was, in fact, my children that I was thinking about. But even that didn't really make sense in view of the example. But nevertheless, followed the trail down with him to look at the feelings that were being thrown up by this circumstance. And I found that, and this is the revealing part, that it wasn't so much about my feelings around my own children, but rather my feelings of myself and what I needed as a child, and in some way didn't feel I had. And so I had reflected that or deflected that onto my relationship with my kids, and also onto my the circumstances involving two cats. My friend very amusingly commented that it was a great catalyst for revealing something. And so it got me thinking about the things that we hide in plain sight. It had been there all along, but the clue, the thing that's really useful to you is to know that that reactivity is really something that is showing you something. So when you have those strong feelings and you're defending those feelings to yourself in some way, or you're expressing them, look closer, really look closer, because it always has something to show you. So reactivity, it's a trail that leads you to you, and something that you may benefit from meeting. And in my case, by the way, all I did was allow myself to feel it, and I was aware of where it sat in my body, as I often am, and I just met the feeling, breathed into that part of my body, because that's the location of where I held it, and it dispersed. Now, I didn't do that in order to get rid of it. I always say that, and it's so true. I didn't do that in order to suppress anything, or because I couldn't handle feeling this way, or I wanted it to go away. I had no such motivation. I simply met it in order just to meet it, and it's lifted quite naturally. I'm going to end on a slightly different note, or rather a stage forward with all of this, because something else came up at the weekend, and I wrote about it, and I'm going to share it in the video as well. I think it's really helpful. And it was to do with the whole dynamic of the inner child, and you will be aware of that, I'm sure. If you're not, please, by all means, send me questions. I'll happily answer them if there's anything I can help you with. But there's an aspect of you that holds perhaps some aspect of pain to do with your life, your own story, your construct. And many people have done a lot of work in understanding this construct, the story that they tell themselves, about who they are, and about parts of pain that they may be carrying. But I'm finding that rather than going through things in the same methodical way that has been done, what came to me at the weekend with one particular client was simply bringing her to that kind of almost visualization of herself as a child. And I said, rather than speaking to that child or telling that imagined aspect that is a real part of her psyche, I see you, I understand, and things that she had done in the past. In this case, what I was getting very strongly was merge, that this separation, even with aspects of self, is dissolving for many. And so just come to the place where you can merge with all parts of you, merge with your pain, merge with your story, merge with what repels you about that, because as you do so, as you harmonize with that, you expand your awareness, and you will experience a far greater peace than you have ever known before.